Hey everybody, what is going on? It's Arsenal 101 here, and actually it's Chelsea 101 as well, because we've got Dave who's with us on a Friday night and gives us his point of view from a Chelsea perspective. As you know, Friday night we do a Premier League show at 10 o'clock, and we have guys from different various teams talking about the results of the week and what we thought about them, etc. So it's good to see Dave here. Dave, how you doing, my bro?
Yeah, all good, all good. Just reveling in the Champions League win, and just looking forward to talking a bit about Chelsea and Arsenal tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, that was mighty for you last season. Everybody, it's funny because there's always this disparity between, yes, Man City won the league title, and it's always secondary to the Champions League's the big one. It's like when you're called the European champions, that's it. You are the best team in Europe. You've beaten everybody that you've needed to get that title. And it sort of makes, no disrespect to Drew, who's probably listening, but no disrespect to the champions of England, but it kind of makes them look secondary in comparison to the big one. Man City's never won it.
No, and I think with regards to kind of Chelsea, you see our season in the sense of at the start it was a bit like, oh, we're going to make top four, and the Champions League Tuchel come in, just changed everything, all aspects of Chelsea in terms of, you see the players a little bit more upbeat, you see, tactically we was better, defensively we was better. It's one of those things where even getting to the final, you're kind of almost a bit like, we can do this, but it felt like City's time. And even to win it, I remember I was watching it with a City fan, and he was so confident they were going to win that he was like, "I'll come around mine, I'll get pizzas in and get drinks in and everything," because he was so confident they were going to win. And it's crazy to think that we've won it, that we won it last season, because there hasn't been too much talk of it, really, has there?
Yeah.
In the build up to this season, I think. So yeah, it's madness.
So what's your? It's really weird because I myself we did the first episode of our Premier League show last week, and I know you was busy and you couldn't make it, but I was talking to the guys up on there, and we were all saying, we're going to talk about who we felt was favourites to win it, and some people said Man City because obviously they're the defending champions. Other people said it's going to be Liverpool because Liverpool now have got all their injury woes behind them, so they're going to be back now. And I came up and I said, well, look, Chelsea, realistically, they're the European champions, but they've gone out and catered for the only weakness they had in the team, which was a striker. And I think right now, for me, if they're on it, they're the best team in Europe. They actually beat the Premier League champions to get the title that they earned. So I think that we're really going to see something. This preview, obviously, this game's going to be big for Chelsea. It's a London derby. It's a team that has always done well against Chelsea at home. They actually done the double over Chelsea last season.
Yeah.
And when you consider that this is a very Jekyll and Hyde team, Arsenal, for all intended purposes, they went out and they beat Chelsea twice, but they lost to Burnley, they lost to Everton twice, they lost to Aston Villa twice, they lost to Wolves twice. So it's like, you've got all that quality to beat the European champions, but you can't even take care of like mid-table teams. You can't even do that. So, and I think for Arsenal, their season will solemnly be dependent on making sure that Wolves don't beat them twice.
Yeah.
Aston Villa, Everton, getting results against those teams. Even if you swapped, if we went at home and lost away, even if we swapped results with those teams, that's 9 points.
Yeah,
that's 9 points for Arsenal.
Yeah, I think this is the thing with Arsenal and Chelsea. You've always done well against us, and I think obviously over the span of the Premier League, you've beat us. I want to say like 21 times. We beat you 16 or 17 over the span of things. Previously we used to have your bogeyman Didier Drogba, who just would score regardless of, if it was Arsenal. If we were playing Arsenal, you'd bet your house that Didier Drogba was gonna put the ball in the back of the net. And I think with us, it's an important game for both, really. It's the kind of like you had Tottenham and City last week, but this is the big key matchup this week, and I think for Arsenal, it's important to get on the board. If you can beat Chelsea at home, it kind of almost feels like, okay, our season starts now. You know, put whatever happened last week, to bed. This is the platform we need now, and the standard that we need to keep. You lose against Chelsea now. You're 2 games in, and there's 0 points.
And I got to be honest with you. There's 75% of the Arsenal fan base that are probably saying and have already said we've lost the first 3 games of the season. That's it. We're going to be bottom of the league after the first 3 games. That's it. There's already 75% of fans, maybe even more. But there's still about 25% of fans that are saying, look, we've beaten Chelsea many times before. In fact, let's look at that record. Let's put that up before we talk about the 2 teams. Let's talk about the current form of where both teams are over the years. And it's been fairly balanced. Let me get rid of this banner because the banner's in the way and we can't really see the bottom of it. So it's been pretty balanced. If we start from the bottom, we'll see the Premier League there. We'll see that there's 3 draws. So they drawed in the Premier League, home and away. Chelsea 0-0. Arsenal always going to let in goals. So it's Arsenal 2-2. And then you look there in the League Cup and it's 0-0. And then in the League Cup again, 2 weeks after, it was 2-1 to Arsenal. Then you move to 2018-19 season where Chelsea probably the honours were split in the league. Chelsea beat us 3-2 at home, and we won 2-0 at our place. And then in the Europa League final, that was really disappointing. Yeah, Baku. That was disappointing for me because we had beaten Chelsea in the FA Cup finals and everything, and I felt so confident. And I think that's where I knew that the Unai Emery time was over because they let him down. They came out in the second half and they just rolled over and died. And I think Chelsea proved that when it comes to, we might have beaten them in the FA Cup finals and all of those games, but this is on a European scale where Arsenal don't really have a name for themselves. They are not really known in Europe as winners. And Chelsea, as you know, they have that reputation with the Champions League.
Yep.
And then we moved to 2019-2020. Chelsea beat Arsenal away from home. Then it was a 2-2 draw. I remember that was the game that we had so much injuries. An 18-year-old Martinelli ran the length of the field and scored and tied the game. And obviously in the FA Cup final there, Arsenal won again. So and then the last 2 games, which is last season, as we know, Arsenal took both of the honours. So Arsenal have actually beaten Chelsea 3 games in a row. They're unbeaten in 4, and they've won the last 3 games against Chelsea. So tomorrow it means everything, doesn't it? Like you said, Dave, it's a statement of intent for both teams.
Yeah, definitely. I think with Chelsea, we'll look at last year and we'll say, okay, knowing where Arsenal were and how they, where they come in the league, you want to at least win your game at home maybe, and if you're away, draw. And these are the type of games that are going to make the difference between us competing with, in my eyes, Man City and United and Liverpool to go on a title challenge, or potentially falling into that bracket of let's try and get top 4, if that makes sense. It's a weird one with Arsenal because I feel like you've got a team now and you've spent a lot of money, so you've shown the financial intent. I like the profiling of players, this season that you've kind of bought in. It's just not been. Some of them haven't been the right players for me. But everything else in terms of you look at the transfer strategy from last season to this season. I think Arsenal really turned the corner with that. It's just now it's about identifying the right players, and bearing in mind you're going to be stronger this. I think you've got a stronger team this time round. It's going to be something where you're at home, you're at the Emirates, fans are allowed in. I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal win.
Really?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Mind you, yeah, because I agree with you. Because the fans make all the difference. After they, when you look at it last season, the amount of games that Arsenal lost, 9 games at home, that is atrocious. That's not been done for decades. That place is normally a fortress, and the fans are a big reason for that. The fans would not accept the performances of Arsenal Football Club last season at home. The benefit that team had is that they did not have the fans, because they would have kicked Arsenal right up the backside.
Yeah.
And especially with a London rival, especially with a derby, we know that the stadium might be sublime and quiet in most games, but when it comes to Chelsea, Man United, Spurs, when it comes to those games, Man City, the place is alive, and you wouldn't believe it. It's like a European atmosphere. It's strange that we don't see that every game, but we saw it actually happen. I think it was with Tottenham's game, when I was shocked how quiet the stadium was. But it's just one of those things that happen. In pre-season, the two teams met each other, and it was with mixed results. Chelsea could have scored 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
And Arsenal had an equaliser, which there was no VAR, which was Joe Willock actually, and he's not even here now. One of the top scoring midfielders in the league, as it is, even at his age. And we decided to sell him. A problem that we had lacked and we need help with. We decided to offload this guy for next to nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like you had maybe in slight the heir apparent to Aaron Ramsey a little bit. Rambo that you guys had and would chip in with goals from midfield. And, I was surprised with the Joe Willock deal. I would have thought you would have guys have given him a little go at least.
Could you imagine? I just want to say, could you imagine selling Mason Mount for 25 million?
Oh no, but I think Mason Mount and Joe Willock are in. I think Mason Mount's levels above. Joe Willock.
He's at the Foden Saka level, and but even with that being said, look, Joe Willock scored 11 goals last season, and he scored it in 17 games. He had it with Newcastle at one point. He had 7 and 7. So while we can't compare him to those names yet, duly because of experience, because it hasn't been done over time, we know that Saka has over 21 assists in the last 2 seasons, and he's only 19 years old. So when we look at the creativity, Mount made the Champions League winning goal. Yeah. He assisted that goal. So when we look at those levels, Phil Foden, we don't have to talk about him. He won the title last season with Man City. But Joe Willock he's provided 11 goals, which is something that most midfielders in the league don't do. So it's to have somebody like that. How much would a Mason Mount cost? Are we talking Maddison, Grealish levels?
Oh, you're talking over Maddison, 100%. You're talking over. You are talking Grealish levels, in my opinion. I think you've got a guy there who does something. You've seen the creativity. You see the work rate that he's got, and he's getting better. I think this is something that people. I think they look at Mason Mount, and I think a lot of people want him to be almost like another Frank Lampard, but he's not. He doesn't need to be another Frank Lampard, because he can just be his own Mason Mount. And this is the guy who presses from the front, plays in the front three. He will chip in with assists, with goals. He's someone that when you watch him play, you do think like England, and you think of him with that Foden, Saka levels, and you think, wow, England have got a bright future in the sense of, for the next World Cup, or which is next year, isn't it? And that, I mean, he's on that Grealish level for me. Mason Mount, he's superb. He's got to be a mainstay at Chelsea for years to come, and I can't see him going anywhere in the in the near or distant future.
So you see me, I normally put these pictures up so we can talk about our teams. I did that last week when we did the Premier League show. So who are the danger men to look out for Chelsea? We've talked about Mason Mount. Who else do you think are the danger men for Chelsea?
So I think the danger men, when you look at Chelsea, it's what we've done so well is, and I wouldn't say danger men in this example from the aspect of okay, like he's dangerous. You need to, he's a danger going forward. But someone like Jorginho, who on the back of of the Champions League, the European Super Cup and Italy, obviously, at the Euros, he makes everything tick for Chelsea. In terms of that pressing out of the back, if teams try to press us, and I think Arsenal will press Chelsea, Jorginho makes us press proof. He's so smart on the ball that he's integral to the way that we play and set up.
The pivot man.
He's
And isn't it funny? That's your strength, whereas Xhaka for us is our weakness, because when the ball comes out at the back to the pivot, we take so long in turning defense into attack. We're so slow in our build-up play because Xhaka doesn't move the ball fast enough. He doesn't have that precision to pick a pass and the vision to start the attacks, and that's where we're sadly lacking. And we've seen a change in that with Lokonga. We've seen Lokonga able to find space, able to push the ball up the field more quickly, and we're hoping that even with the form Thomas Partey showed in pre-season, where he was able to do that, we looked like a different team.
Yeah, and I think a special mention obviously has to go out to Lukaku as well, bearing in mind, like you said, we had one glaring weakness last season. It was putting the ball in the net. We've now got, in my mind, a top 5 striker in the world, in my opinion, in Lukaku, who's joined, and he wants to play for Chelsea. You can see that he's ready for the challenge. This time you can really sense it, that he's like, right, I will make this a success. And everywhere he's gone, he scored goals. So, pardon me, could this be the new Drogba effect with Lukaku and Chelsea against Arsenal now? I hope so, but you never know. And he just looks so ready for this opportunity.
So with Arsenal, I can easily say that this would be our strongest quartet, but I'd have to take, I don't know, it really depends on Aubameyang. I can see some of the comments here. Let's say it was going on to Kuke. Kuke says, hey, guys, good to see you. Dave. Ashik says, full packed Emirates, injuries or not, we shouldn't be losing tomorrow. Kuke says, it was only a year ago that Uber was one of the most informed strikers in the world, backing our captain for a goal tomorrow. And then he says, I'll take Uber at 50% over everyone I saw up front against Brentford. Well, against Brentford, and I defend him because Balogun is young, is just turned 19 actually. He was our 18-year-old stud. He's never started a game for Arsenal before. Last weekend, never ever started. Not even most of these kids have played in Europe. Even the likes of Aziz, who we haven't seen anywhere so far this season. But all those guys started games in Europe. This guy hasn't. He has not started in the League Cup, in the Europa, or anywhere else. So that game in the Premier League, yes, he was all sorts and he wasn't ready and he didn't look sharp and he didn't hold the ball up well and his first touch was horrible. I gave him 4 out of 10. But give the guy a break. I mean, it was his first game at that level. So will he start tomorrow? I'm not sure. I hope Aubameyang comes in, or I hope that they do something with Martinelli and Martinelli starts. So Kulke says, I'll take Aubameyang at 50% over everybody I saw up front against Brentford, despite the disrespect that often comes his way on these boards. And he's probably talking about Bertram. Just throw him in and hope that he nicks something. Jared says, what's up, guys? What's going on, Jared? Hope to see you. Hope you're in a positive mood for tomorrow's game, as well as you, Andrew. Big shout out to you, Andrew. Hope all is well for you. So I've got to say, Smith Rowe, for me, again, one of the most creative guys, second most creative guy on the team behind Odegaard from the turn of the year, which saw Arsenal with the second best record in the league. Smith Rowe had 7 assists and 4 goals in just half a season. So if you translate that into a full season, you're talking about someone who could potentially get 8 to 9 goals and a whooping 15 assists. That's a Fabregas level player for Arsenal.
I mean, with Smith Rowe, I would feel, and can you play Smith Rowe and Odegaard in the same team?
Yeah, if you can do that. If you have a three at the back system, you can play with two number 10s.
Because I feel like they're different players, but they both want to play in that number 10 role. And if I'm Smith Rowe, if I'm regularly going to be set, pairing up with an Odegaard maybe, and then you've got maybe a Partey or someone else in, behind them, or a Lokonga, then I'd almost feel a bit annoyed that you've gone out and you've got an Odegaard, because then that shows a real lack of commitment to him as a player to go, I'll tell you what, we're going to get somebody who's also doing your role in that, if that makes sense, to be a creator for the team. Fair enough, obviously, if you're going to play them together. I don't know whether you will. I feel like they're going to be two players that are going to be fighting for spots, and bearing in mind you've got no European football as well. If that's the case, it's going to be one of them are going to get annoyed, and I can't see it necessarily being. I can see Odegaard starting more than Smith Rowe. It's just that progression that he had from last year to being, this kid that, was just thrown in there to now being, okay, actually, he's a part of the squad and he should be playing every week. It's making sure that he doesn't deteriorate with his ability for Arsenal.
I think this is a question that was happening a lot last year, but in terms of definition and defining the players, Odegaard is a natural 10, and Smith Rowe is an 8 trying to be a 10. And that's why he's taken the number 10 shirt. He's paid homage to Dennis Bergkamp and all the previous players before him. But I would prefer him to be an 8, because for 3 years, I've been saying to Arsenal fans, he's the next Aaron Ramsey. He's the next Arsenal number 8. He's going to be that deep playing midfielder who works hard, box to box, makes late runs into the box, gets on things and sets things up creatively. And his creativity is a big part of the team. And having them both there just solves Arsenal's biggest problem in terms of opportunities to score goals. I can't see how you lose with both of these guys in the team. And so for me, I think that even though Smith Rowe wants to be a 10, I think that you just play him as an 8. Joe Willock was a perfect 8. He's not here. Yeah. And we don't have a solution in the team. So I think that we go with Smith Rowe as an 8, and then we go with Odegaard as a 10. And then you have Saka on the left, Pepe on the right, and then you have your striker. And that could be whether it's Aubameyang, Lacazette, or whether it's Martinelli or whatever. That's how I would play it. But again, Saka didn't play the whole game last week. That was because of international duties, and he was late back. So he wasn't really 100% as well. Pepe was disappointing. Mind you, they were all disappointing last week. So these are really the guys to look out for. It's a shame that Thomas Partey's not back, and it's a real shame that Gabriel won't be in the game. But I think they got enough in there to cover those guys, and that's how I think that they'll go tomorrow. It would be interesting tactically to see what Arteta will do, because it's worked twice before. He beat Chelsea twice last week, and he beat them with a team 1-0 that wasn't very great. And then he beat them at Christmas 3-1, which was a team that was Smith Rowe's first game. That was his first start. And so it will be interesting. But yeah, it's Arsenal have what it takes in the bag to beat Chelsea tomorrow. But I think on Chelsea's side, if you're going to be champions and you need to elevate yourself to lead from the front, none of this struggling and winning one week and losing the next week. You've got to take the fight to Man City and Liverpool and Man United. Man United's in there as well. If you're Chelsea, you've got to make a statement and lead from the front. We are the European champions. We won the Champions League. We've got one of the best strikers of the world in Lukaku, which was our only weakness. Imagine, we won the Champions League with no striker. So what can we do now that we have a bona fide anchorman at the point? So for me, Chelsea has to come out and win this game tomorrow.
Yeah,
sorry, go on.
It's crazy because everything in, I think, stats in terms of, a Chelsea team versus an Arsenal team, take out the London rivalry, take out that passionate kind of players that you're going to get. And I think you look at Chelsea and you go, They've got a superior defence. They've got a superior keeper. Midfield. If you've got, maybe a Jorginho and Kante in there. I mean, I don't know what's up with Kante. I'm not sure if he's going to be playing. If he's not,
really? Oh, that's good news. You heard it here first, Arsenal fans.
I'm not sure because I feel like he tweaks. I know we haven't got Pulisic. Pulisic is COVID. He contracted COVID.
Right. So while you're talking about that, let's pull up because you've got to do your probable team. So let's see where you are on this. Normally I ask you guys, but I just wanted to get this ready to make it easier for you to sort of work from.
Yeah, I think for me, you've got Mendy, Chalobah coming obviously last week and impressed, and even in the Super Cup impressed a lot. So it looks like from reports that Tuchel's going to stick with him and implement him into this first team squad, which would be good. Aspi, yeah, I can see him potentially playing that. I mean, I don't know whether he may not go Chalobah, but then it looks like Zuma's been kind of frozen out a little bit as well. But yeah, I think it looks. Jorginho, Kovacic potentially. I mean, it depends what obviously if Kante is fit to play or not. Obviously, if Kante is, then you put him in there. He's world class. He's a world class midfielder. I mean, Alonso, yeah. Based on last week, if you're going to go through that form, I know Pulisic won't be playing, so you may even go Werner, maybe on the left, I imagine. As a change, and then it depends if you want to throw Lukaku in there and throw him in and say, right, this is the start. We need your goals. Let's go. But I mean, you look at.
I can see him start from the bench, and you can see him. It's very rare that you see somebody being bought and then starting in a big game like this. A lot of people think he weren't even going to play.
Yeah, I mean we. Obviously didn't play last week. I think a lot of people thought he would be playing, but now he's had a bit of training behind him, and from training videos, etc., he looks quite sharp. So I can imagine that. Yeah, I can imagine he's probably going to be thrown in there. And you think of that team right there. There are names in that team that you look at and you say, Havertz. He looks like a world class talent. Kai Havertz. Could he maybe play? Maybe on the right, and then Mount maybe on the left. You obviously Werner as well. I mean, we've got so many options at Chelsea now. It's ridiculous. So
with let me hear what the guys are saying before we talk about Arsenal. Andrew is saying, how is Arsenal going to become a self-sustaining if no young players can be integrated in the first team? Andrew, by the way, let me pull up the first team. Andrew, the entire team is full of young players, so I'm not sure if I could agree with you on that. If anything, we learned from the first half of last season when we were in 14th place that the older players can't get it done. And then as soon as he played the kids, they finished 8th. So and had the second best record in the league behind Man City for the latter part. And also Dave mentioned Chelsea has the second best defense behind Man City, but the third best defense was Arsenal, letting in 39 goals. So it's and we did all of that with kids. Cool K says, also unbelievable, tickets are still available for this game based on previous, but yeah, that's because look, it's COVID. Not a lot of people are still comfortable about getting out. It's actually my first game in 18 months, and I suffered. Wow. I'm still suffering with COVID after 8 months. So it's people are wary, and it's not just that as well. Cool K, it's you're asking people to pay 85 quid for the minimum and 127 pounds for because this is a Category A game. All the rival games are Category A, so you pay maximum pounds. Tickets are available for as little as £30 when Arsenal play. They changed their structure a lot instead of making it static. I'm not sure if you knew that, Dave. So the expensive games are now even more expensive.
Yeah.
And the lower table, mid-table games are even now more, they're less cheaper. So gone are the days where you pay £70 to go and see Brighton or Norwich. Now those games will cost you as little as 30 quid. So it's balanced well. I'm a season ticket holder, so it doesn't affect me at all. Andrew says both Dennis Bergkamp and Thierry Henry took time to adjust. Yeah. We're going to have to wear that badge for most of Arteta's tenure last season and this season, because it's a young team. He's bringing in a lot of 20-year-old, 23-year-olds. If you look at Aaron Ramsdale, if you look at Ben White, they're both 23. Lokonga's 21. Tavas is 20. If you look at all these players coming in, they're young. Martin Odegaard's 22. They're all young. So it does mean, and they're signing 5-year deals. So we've got those guys 27, 28 years old, and how much are they going to be worth in the market then? So we won't really get ourselves into an Aaron Ramsey situation anymore. Big shout out to Mr. Bungle in the house. Always a pleasure to see you, my friend. Jared says, every time I see Basama play, I grieve that we haven't signed him yet. I don't know why Edu and Arteta haven't snapped him up. It's going to come back and haunt us. I think it would be better when Thomas Partey comes back. If you play a Partey in Lokonga and Smith Rowe in the midfield, I'll take that all day long compared to what we had last season. Ashek, good to see Ashek. Ashek saying Mari shouldn't be playing tomorrow. Yeah, Lukaku's going to rinse him a new one, man.
That's the thing. I'm looking at your defence, and I see Chambers, Murray, Ben White. I know Ben White's just come for a lot of money, but it screams bully to me in terms of like from a Lukaku standpoint. I'll be looking at that, licking my lips and going, yeah, this could be a big game for me.
Yeah, I mean, we've got fight in there with Ben White, and most importantly, our Braveheart player, which is Kieran Tierney. That's where all the grit, the leadership, and the fight comes from. But remember, guys, these guys are 22, 23 years old. We've gone from talking about David Luiz, who's been a fantastic leader for us, and we don't have him anymore. And here we are. You know, Chelsea fans know how important it is to have a David Luiz in your team, but we don't have that. That's not there for us anymore. So Arsenal are going to have to get it done with these kids, and that's going to be rough. It's going to be hard, but they're going to grow together as a team, and as the fan base has to learn that, and the fan base has to sort of adopt that support. We can't give up on these kids. We have to get behind them, be the 12th man, because it won't work any other way.
I don't think you'll give up on the players, and I don't think you'll give up on the squad. I think you're starting to give up on Arteta because since he's come in my opinion, I think you've regressed. If I have to be honest, I don't think you've progressed under Arteta whatsoever. So I feel like the Arsenal fan base are just quietly getting annoyed with Arteta, and I think
I wouldn't say it's quietly.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm probably one of 10 or 20% that's an Arteta fan. But I understand the process. I understand a lot of our fans think we've got a great team, and I've been telling them for years this team ain't that good. They're trash, and they need to they jettisoned a lot of them and bring in replacements, and that's what they're doing. But a lot of our fan base thinks that these guys are brilliant. So if they were brilliant, they failed 3 managers, and they're failing Arteta. So you can change Arteta, you can change Emery, you can change Wenger, you can change Lundberg, you can change all the managers. If the team innately aren't talented and they're not good, it ain't going to work. And our fans have a big issue with that. Most of them don't see that. They put everything on the manager's shoulders, which rightly it should be. I mean, Arteta has made some horrific mistakes in terms of choices, team sheets, leaning on a spine in Xhaka that has failed so many managers. It's never going to work with Xhaka. But you keep beating this dead horse, and nothing's going to change in the middle of the park. The most important part of the team is your spine. And if you don't have the mobility, the vision, the aggression, the smarts, the intelligent in the midfield, then you are not going to change. You are still going to be that same team that everyone's going to run past, and because you're lacking that intensity and leadership in the middle of the park. And unfortunately, a lot of the fans don't see that. A lot of fans praise Xhaka. They praise him. They praise the mediocrity that our team has become over the years. And I just can't see it. But to each his own. It's all subjective, and I respect their opinions. But that's my opinion. My opinion is, as long as Xhaka's in the team, and this team is never going to make the top 4, and I've said that for years, and so far I'm right. So
yeah, I mean, this is the thing. When you look at Arsenal, it's happens quite a few times in the sense of you get a starlet player who, like in this, who does so well for a string of games. They get that big new contract, and then it's like you expect that contract needs to pay out, with goals or with something. And it happened with, you think about, Ozil for a bit. You just have these starlet players that look so good, and then I don't know what happens, but they go missing or they don't get the opportunities, etc.
But that's not happening at Chelsea. When Willian was asking for 200 grand a week, when he was asking for a 3-year contract, Chelsea said, "No, we're not doing that, mate." And people chastised Arsene Wenger when he said, "When you reach the age of 30, scientifically," and Wenger was Mr. Professor, "you are on the decline, not on the up." And Wenger made it a state house to not give anybody a contract more than a year. Now that might have been tight. Maybe on a few players you could have pushed it an extra year, but Willian, Chelsea only offered him 2 years, and they were right.
Yeah, because I think you could see it, and I think you could see the trajectory of where Chelsea were going though as well. And I think you could see, is Willian going to be in our team for the next, 3-4 seasons when we've got other players around like a Pulisic, potentially obviously bringing in a Werner as well, and those people. He wasn't in our plans at all. And I look at what Arsenal, I feel like, tried to do with Willian, and I feel like it was a quick fix to try and elevate Arsenal's stock to try and compete for top 4, and it hasn't worked out. So now when you're left with this situation that you're in, it's now to the point where you say, right, do you even play him anymore?
No, because we've told him, we've told Bellerin, we've told Leno, we've told a lot of our players to go and find another team because you're not in our future, and nobody wants them. No one's coming for them because look, no one's got any money. Everything's tight. We know how it is, and you're not expecting these guys to play in the Premier League. Premier League's where the money is. I mean, any other team would snatch them up, but why would they? These players are dross. Why would you buy a Bellerin? Why would you buy a Leno? Why would you buy?
I don't know. Like, I think the thing with Willian is Willian's gonna see out his contract now. I think you guys have absolutely done yourselves over there with that.
Yeah.
Bellerin is a guy where I think everyone's hoping for him to hit almost like the heights of being like one of the best right backs or right wing backs maybe in the Prem. It hasn't happened, and rightly so. It might be worth moving on from him. Leno is an interesting one because I remember when he first come, he wasn't too bad, was he? He was, and he kind of emphasised that playing out from the back. But then recently, it's just I don't know. I speaking as a Chelsea fan, I hear Leno's name being talked about, out the club or try and sell him, and I don't know what he's done that badly to merit that.
So I'll explain. It's twofold. I'll explain. First of all, give Leno props. Leno's a fantastic shot stopper. I know we got beaten on his near post last week, and that's something a keeper should never have. But he's a good shot stopper. In terms of his distribution and his set pieces, he's poor.
Yeah,
especially distribution. He was supposed to be the guy that was going to improve us beyond Peter Cech. Because Peter Cech couldn't play the ball out the back, and we've got ourselves somebody who can't. The second thing is he's the most error-prone mistake goalkeeper leading to goals over the last 3 seasons. So when you take somebody like him whose mistakes has led to more goals than any goalkeeper within that span, then you have a player like Xhaka who's led all outfield players with mistakes leading to goals. Then you've got 2 guys who are giving goals to the other team, which you don't, how much has that happened with Kante? How much has that happened with, this is the reason why when you see things like this, Arsenal fans don't really know what's wrong with Kepa. We thought Kepa's a brilliant, but you speak to a Chelsea fan, they're like, oh no, Kepa needs to go, and that's really what it is. Leno, they made a mistake with Martinez, and they're paying for it.
Yeah,
and they're still paying for it. So if it was that perfect, he would have got a new contract. He's got 2 years left on his deal. They're not even offering him a new contract. Like Leno knows. Sorry,
and
go
you
on.
get Aaron Ramsdale. And for me, I've watched Aaron Ramsdale quite a lot, and I don't know what he's done to merit this move.
Well, first of all, I've got to play devil's advocate because I'm not a big Aaron Ramsdale fan. For a guy who's been relegated with teams, Sheffield United, Bournemouth, and actually there's another team that he got relegated with as well. So that's 3 teams. But he's actually been the best player. He's been player of the year on all of those teams. And he's got an England call-up. So when I talked to a couple of agents, because I said the same thing, I was like, this guy's the dross. He's like at the basement of goalkeeping standards, but he's young, he's 23, so he's not really there yet, and they feel they can develop him to being one of the best. So that's why they brought him in. And at the end of the day, if that's why you brought him in because you feel like you can develop him, that's fine, but then don't pay 24 million for him.
I know.
This guy, we could have got David Raya. We offered 10 million for David Raya 12 months ago, and Brentford said, no, we want 15. And now we're talking about David Raya for Brentford. Now you're buying a goalkeeper like Ramsdale for 24 million. I mean, that's just, you sold Martinez for 20, who's one of the best in the world, let alone in the Premier League. And you sold you bought this guy for more.
Yeah, I mean, it does puzzle me a bit, and I think every time that I've watched him, I've never found him good. I've never found
his distribution's brilliant, though.
I mean, what's distribution? You can't keep the ball at the net.
But for us, distribution is a big thing because we're so bad at it.
Yeah, but I mean,
we're so bad at it.
I mean, I play in goal. I play today. My distribution's shocking at most times, but what you make up for that is key saves and key elements, and it's almost like you guys have gone, okay, we'll go for a great shot stopper, and then you've almost gone, okay, we're just going to go fully on distribution now, and it's almost like you've gone from one end of the spectrum to the other, if that makes sense.
But the one thing I was saying to Arsenal fans, and they will all tell you this because I make it quite well known what my thoughts are on just about every player. When we bought him, I warned everybody. I said a lot of goalkeepers were going to Man City and to Chelsea for 60, 70 million. We got this guy for 18 million. And we got him because he was the most mistake-prone goalkeeper leading to goals in terms of errors in the Bundesliga. And he was just at that point he was just dropped from the German national team. That's why we got him on the cheap. So if you buy at Primer, don't expect Harrods quality goods. And here we are 3 years later, finding out that he's exactly what it said on the tin. He's a guy who saves well, isn't really good at other aspects of the game, and he makes mistakes leading to goals. That's what we found out. Those are the facts. Those are facts. Arsenal fans will say, yeah, I support him, Leno's great and whatever, but those are the facts. So this is a situation where you get what you pay for. And I think with Aaron Ramsdale, although I don't think he's great, I do understand that this guy has been the best player on those teams. He was voted player of the seasons for the last 2 years by the fans for his performances. And he was so good that he got a call up for the England team. So that's got to tell me something. So I'm looking at that and weighing it up and thinking, okay, well, you're now at Arsenal. I can't do nothing about the deal. You're an Arsenal player now, so I'm going to support you.
Yeah.
So show me what you've got. Show me that you can develop into a Pat Jennings, into a David Seaman, into a Bob Wilson. Show me that you can develop into a quality goalkeeper.
I think I'll end the Ramsdale point on. I think there's a difference. If you look at Jordan Pickford when he was at Sunderland, I think Jordan Pickford played sensational for Sunderland. I think you looked and you said they've got a bad team, but he's actually keeping them in games. And I think that's the reason he got his move to Everton, obviously, at the time. I didn't see that with Ramsdale. I really didn't. I just thought he looked like a bottom half keeper in honesty. And it's going to be interesting.
I agree with you. I think we should have got for Sam Johnston, who's a very, very good goalkeeper in all aspects. But again, he's slightly older. Look, I'm just going to wait to see what Arsenal do, because he hasn't played a game for Arsenal yet. So I can only judge him on what he does. And for Arsenal, we obviously have better defenders. So I just have to wait to see what happens. I just want to see what these guys are saying. But my team, by the way, I'm going to go for the same formation: Leno, Chambers, White, Mari, and Tierney. I'm going to go for Lokonga, Xhaka in the midfield, and then it's Pepe, Smith Rowe, Martinelli, and Balogun. The only change that I would see is Balogun coming out. If Aubameyang is fit enough to play, then they'll probably play him. So that's what I would go with. Alexander says, guys, who do you think is going to win the Premier League? I think it's going to be Chelsea, and I said that last week when we had our show.
I am going to go for... I think I'm very confident with us or City, if I have to be honest. I will say Chelsea for now, and I'm confident with my team. If Kane gets his move to City, I believe in City look to be unbeatable, in my opinion.
But funny you mentioned that, because Lukaku to Chelsea is as good as Kane to City.
I think if you look at the player profile wise, yes. I think take it back 24 months of Harry Kane at Tottenham, I thought he had Manchester United written all over him.
Yeah. Kane's a better all-round player. Kane can play a 10 or a 9.
And I think last season proved it. I think you look at last season with Harry Kane and the way he played under and the way he played under Mourinho, and him dropping in and having Son running off him. I think him to Man City and the work that Pep can do with a Harry Kane is going to be outrageous, in my opinion. I think the Premier League hinges on if that deal gets done.
Yeah, you're probably right. Cap said we should have kept Matt Ryan and got Onana. Yeah, I completely agree with you, 100%. 100%, my brother. And Mr. Bungle says, here's a fun fact: if we had a Russian gangster running around our club pumping JRU and oil money into the team, then we would be just as good at Chelsea. Yeah, I mean, the fact is there is an element of that, and there's also an element of Arsenal have come off the back of yearly losses, back-to-back losses as a team in operating costs, and the owners have done a good job in terms of giving them money to spend. They've spent 130 million this summer, 100 million last season, and 144 million the season before that when we bought Pepe. So the money is not a problem at the moment with Arsenal. What is the problem is who we're buying. Because as I said to Arsenal fans before, Chelsea spent 200 million last season and ended up winning the Champions League. Havertz, all those players that they had, quality players. Arsenal spent 100 million on Pepe and Saliba, and neither of those guys really featured for the team in the league. Well, Saliba has never played a game for Arsenal. Pepe started the last few games, which is why we went on that 5-game winning streak. He was banging the goals in, but notoriously we didn't play Pepe. So how can you have 100 million like that, and 100 million's not on the pitch? 100 million needs to be on the pitch. That's where it needs to be. Chelsea can do it, and it changed their fortunes. Arsenal spent that money, and their players were nowhere to be seen. So,
I mean, Apollo, look at your projected team now, and look at the differences in terms of players. The team looks identical, apart from obviously you've got White and Lokonga in there. Are you saying that that's 130 million's worth of players that should be playing? No, it's.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness,
I like the profile of play. I like what you guys are doing in terms of the profile, in terms of age and the areas that you've tried to, strengthen. I just don't like the players.
But remember, there's no Saka there. There's no There's no Odegaard. There's no Lacazette. There's no Aubameyang in that lineup. So that's a lot of money that you're sitting on. There's no Thomas Partey there.
Yep.
Nketiah comes in and scores goals from the 6-yard line. He's not there. Gabriel, who we paid 30 million for the season before that, he's not in that lineup. So that's 7 players that I just named there, which, if I'm honest with you, 5 or 6 of those players will probably, with the exception of Nketiah, 6 of those players will just walk straight into this team.
Yeah, I think
So this is why I said to one of the guys when he talked about the youth players, this team is just, Chambers, White, Tierney, Lokonga, Pepe to a point, Smith Rowe, Martinelli, Balogun, all young. We're all kids.
And there's a lot of hype around Balogun, wasn't there? A lot of hype around, re-signing him to a deal at Arsenal because other clubs are sniffing around. But at some point in time, you've got to prove your worth when you get a deal and you push for a deal. Balogun, I mean, could he be another Rhian Brewster? Someone with all this promise, but doesn't end up doing it. But
I mean, I've always said that the perfect striker would be the goal scoring talent of Aubameyang, the hold up play of Lacazette, and the defensive work of Nketiah. That was Thierry Henry. He did all of that. We've got 3 guys I just mentioned there, and the hope is that Balogun can be a combination of all of those guys that I just mentioned.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk. You got closing comments on there?
Yep. So predictions time. So guys, let me hear from you in the chat as well. What do you think is going to be the score tomorrow? It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one. I don't think we're going to win. I think it's going to be 2-0 Chelsea. I think it's going to be 2-0 Chelsea.
I second that. I think when you look at and you put all the factors around, I think we have a superior manager. I think we have a superior back line, including obviously keeper and back line. I think every single part of the pitch we beat you, and it's not me coming on here bragging. It's more of a, especially with what you potentially have available. If Kante plays as well, that's just another player in there that is just gonna. That's going to be a monster in midfield. The one thing I hold of Arsenal is you're going to have fans back, and this is a big game. This is a London derby. This is a game in which, obviously Tottenham are always going to be Arsenal's rivals, but if you look, that secondary rivalry is always going to be like a Chelsea or a United, in my opinion. So players emotionally are going to be up for this, I imagine. If they're not, then they got you got to let them hear it. You got to let them hear it at the Emirates tomorrow, because everyone's going into this game from a Chelsea fan perspective, thinking this is a big game, massive game, and
Arsenal fans ain't going to accept a poor performance. Styles saying that Chelsea are going to win 2-0. G is saying Chelsea's going to win 3-0. Andrew's gone for a draw. Kuke saying 4-0 to Chelsea. Wow. 18 is saying 3-1. These are all Arsenal fans, by the way.
But it's the belief, isn't it, that you guys have had from last week from playing in playing against Brentford. I
think that the fact that I just mentioned that 7 guys are not going to be on that field tomorrow is probably where we're at right now. Caps is saying if Chelsea scores first, it's game over. Arsenal will capitulate. Kuke saying, but why will we lose, Apollo? For the simple reason that Arsenal are on the trajectory of, they're just on a downhill trajectory. And even if they're not really moving forward yet, because you've gone and got Odegaard, you've gone and got all this help, but your prime beef, your 30 million in Gabriel, your 50 million in Thomas Partey, your 60 million in Lacazette, 60 million in Aubameyang, your 30 million in Odegaard, all of that investment isn't on the pitch. So all the money you've spent to get to play teams like this, and you did well against Chelsea last season, Arsenal, but when you're missing 1 or 2 players, you might be able to cover it. But when you got 6 or 7 players out,
yeah,
and you're hoping a guy like Balogun can come in who completely lacks experience against the Champions League champions, it's a bit too much to ask. So I love my Arsenal, always back them, but I got to be real. And I think it's not. They don't have the team to beat Chelsea tomorrow. So that's the reason why I think that it's all where it is. So I'm going with 2-0 to Chelsea. What's your thoughts on it? You're going to agree with 2-0, yeah?
Yeah, I think 2-0. In my opinion, your only hope of winning is fans. So obviously, Arsenal fans watching this, who are going to that game tomorrow, you really have to make these players feel like this game is massive in the sense of, you know, like you called it, a European night almost, because it can be. It's prime time TV that they're playing on, you know. So it goes to show you guys have to get behind Arsenal tomorrow, and I think even if you don't, if you don't, that stadium can go quiet real quickly if Chelsea get one.
Yeah, well, yeah, it would, and the worst thing that can happen is they go behind early and the stadium starts to get empty. That will not be good, considering that we need the fans to support these. These are kids. We're putting a bunch of 19, 20-year-olds out there tomorrow, and if they don't get the support, this experience could do more harm than good if the fans are not out there cheering these guys on. That's why I love Liverpool fans. We'd go down to Liverpool and beat them 2-0 or 3, and the fans are still screaming out of their lungs. You go to the Emirates and they're 2-3-0 down, fans are starting to look for the exit. And it's not just Arsenal fans, a lot of teams are like that. But you won't find that at Liverpool. I remember when we were beating them 6 goals odd, when we had the beast from when we just got the beast from Real Madrid, and he scored a hat-trick. We were killing them, and their fans were still screaming at the top of their voice and clapping and singing songs and all that. And when I saw that night, I actually went to Anfield that night. When I saw that, I was like, these guys are the best fans in the state in the league. You can't touch the cup. This is what being fans is all about. I couldn't believe what I was singing. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Cool K, before we go, just read a few messages. Cool K says, I like Dave. He's pretty on point with his opinions. Gerald says he predicted a 2-0 win against Brentford, and it was the opposite. Now I'm predicting a 2-0 loss against Chelsea. I hope it's the opposite. Yeah, I'm going to hold you to that, Jared. And Style says, and then City, who won 5-0 today. Oh, God, I'm not even looking at that scoreline. Because City put 3 goals past us for fun. Yeah, Arteta, the only time he knew how to play them, which is when he first joined the club, and Arteta was just roasting, just rolling over teams, just dominating teams, and then we ended up winning the FA Cup. Since then, we haven't looked the same team, and I got to call it out where it is. So yeah, that's it from me. Thanks for joining us, Dave. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
I hope to see you on Friday as well, so we can talk about the result. And thank you guys for joining us. And tomorrow, guys, I can't wait. I'm going to be reporting live at the stadium, and I'll speak to you guys then.
Brilliant. See you guys.
Nice one. Peace out, guys.